questions during the info session. So that's why I want to make sure that you know there will be time for questions after the tour, and our tour guides are really great resources as well. So we'll just jump right in, and I'll try to pace because this stupid poll is in the way. So right now I'm very far away from you, but I'll try to move around throughout this presentation. I wish we could fix it, but I think it's too late. All right, so Seattle University is a Jesuit Catholic institution, and our mission is really important to who we are. So this mission really embodies what the Jesuit Catholic tradition looks like through the Seattle University perspective, and it's really embedded in everything that we do at Seattle University. So Seattle University is dedicated to educating the whole person, to professional formation, and to empowering leaders for a more just and humane world. You will see this embodied in the campus resources that are available to our students, the kinds of classes that our faculty choose to teach, and the ways that our faculty engage with our students on campus, and the way that our students build community both on campus and off campus in the broader Seattle area, and make a difference after they graduate as well in so many different fields. So this mission, we always just keep coming back to this mission, whether that's our alumni, our current students, staff, faculty, everyone is really engaging this at Seattle U. So just a few facts and figures before I get into the bigger meat of the presentation. We are a smaller university, so we have around 7,000 total students on campus. That includes our graduate programs and our law school. About 4,000 of our students are undergrad students, and that's what we'll be talking more about today. And what that really means for our students, which I'll talk a little bit more about, is that you have this close-knit college campus community right in the heart of the city. So you all found yourself here today. You know where we're located. We're about a 15-minute walk from downtown Seattle. We're in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, which is a really vibrant neighborhood in Seattle and has its own really important history. But when you're on our campus, you still have that college campus feel. It's very green. You don't have to cross any major roads to get from your bed to food to class. Sometimes you have to cross one major road if you're in one of the farther dorms, but most of our first years won't have to do that. And so you have that close-knit community while still having access to the resources of the broader Seattle area. We are, as I mentioned, a Jesuit Catholic school, so for us that really is connected to our mission. It means that we believe in education for social change and holistic education. So you're not just going to take classes in your major, you're going to take classes outside of your major to make sure that when you graduate you have that well-rounded education. It also means that we treat every student as more than just a student. We see them as a whole person, and we want them to be educated and to grow as a whole person when they're at Seattle U. There's a lot of resources to support that. So we're one of 27 different Jesuit colleges and universities in the US. Anybody know any other Jesuit schools? Yeah?
Loyola Marymount.
Yeah, all the Loyolas. There's 4 different Loyolas. They're all Jesuit. So well done. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? There's another one in Washington. Yes. Usually I have to give the hint that they're really good at basketball, but you got it without that, so well done. There's also Marquette University in Wisconsin, Creighton in Nebraska, Fordham, Georgetown are some of the ones on the East Coast, Santa Clara, University of San Francisco. So if you end up visiting multiple Jesuit schools, you're going to hear a lot of these themes repeat because we're all really invested in that education for social change and holistic education. About 25% of our students identify as Catholic. 75% come from any faith and non-faith backgrounds, so just know wherever you're coming from, you're definitely welcome on our campus. Part of the Jesuit tradition is really valuing diversity of belief systems and learning from each other, and so that's something that our students really embody here. We have a really active interfaith campus ministry. You don't have to participate in that if you're not interested. That is where all of our different faith-based student clubs are oriented across many different traditions, but they also host campus-wide retreats where you don't have to be from any specific faith background to participate in. Those are just really based on reflection and building community. And then we also have a really beautiful chapel that you'll get to walk past. If you're interested, you're welcome to just go inside after the tour. It might be locked because it's summertime, but you might be able to see one of our priests walking in, and you can always just wave them down and they'll show you around. We do host Mass 1 to 2 times a day, but that's not required for students. So if that is something you're interested in, you're definitely welcome to attend Mass, but it's really up to you how much or how little you want to engage the more religious aspects of the Jesuit tradition when you're here. The last thing I like to mention on this page, because I talk about how we're a smaller university, I also like to highlight that we do have 20 different D1 athletic programs, so if you are a sports fan or you're interested in playing in college, just know that that is an opportunity at Seattle U, and we like to highlight that. Also, for those of you who are from the Seattle area, our basketball team gets to play at Climate Pledge Arena sometimes, so that's where our WNBA team plays in Seattle, so that's a pretty big deal. It's pretty cool. All right, so how many of you know what you want to study already? At least a couple of you? Okay, how many of you have absolutely no idea? Okay, not as many hands, but that was where I was at when I was a senior in high school. So we have a few different options for students in terms of their path to Seattle University. You can either apply right into your program, so we are a direct entry institution, or you can apply undecided and then declare once you get here. We do have two programs that are direct entry only. That's our nursing program and our diagnostic ultrasound program. So whether you're a first year student or a transfer student, just know you would have to apply right into those programs. For all of our other majors, you can apply undecided or pre-engineering, pre-business, pre-science, and declare whatever major most interests you once you get here. We have a really robust advising program for students who come in undecided, so there will be a lot of guidance to help you find a major that is a good fit for you. As long as you declare by the end of your sophomore year, you should be able to graduate in 4 years. And that's how our advising program is structured, to really support students in staying on track. And then in terms of our actual majors, we have 4 different colleges. That's how we kind of divide our 60 different programs at Seattle U. And the first one is College of Arts and Sciences. That holds a lot. It holds our humanities, social science, and our arts programs. And then our Albert School of Business and Economics is going to hold more of the business programs, College of Science and Engineering, and then our College of Nursing holds our nursing and diagnostic ultrasound program. So across all of our different colleges, we have an average class size of 18. Our student to faculty ratio is 11:1, and 100% of all of our classes are taught by faculty. So I think that's a benefit of going to a smaller school with really engaged faculty, is knowing they're gonna know your name, they're gonna notice when you're not in class, and they're gonna care about it because they're gonna have that relationship with you already. You're also gonna be able to get to know your peers because of those smaller class sizes. So if that's something you're interested in, it's just good to consider that as you're beginning the college search process. Our most popular majors are nursing, psychology, computer science, and business analytics. We also have 4 tracks for engineering. We have a few different environmentally focused programs that are growing in popularity, and then we also have 4 different programs for criminal justice. Outside of that, we have so many other options as well, so if you have specific questions about a major that I didn't mention, I'm always happy to answer that after the tour. So the last thing we like to highlight when it comes to academics is our core curriculum and our honors program. So these are the 2 ways we kind of cover our holistic education at Seattle U. So as I mentioned, we do require students to take classes outside of their major. This will include some arts classes, some history classes, writing, math, science, arts, and there's 12 different categories that you have to check off, or 12 different course requirements that you have to check off by the time you graduate in our core curriculum. And if you do the core path, which is what most students do, you have a lot of choice between the different classes you can take, and all of the classes are really designed knowing that they're going to be students who are outside of their comfort zone. So maybe you are really interested in biology, but art is something that you never really touched before. The art classes are designed for that. So they might be like, oh, photography for scientific research. And that would maybe connect to your interests, but still get that creative thinking that we want to build as part of that holistic education. One of our social science classes is called How Do We Fix Healthcare? That's relevant to literally every student, regardless of what program you're coming into. And so they're really designed around bigger questions that students from all different perspectives can get involved in, talk about, and then just learn a little bit more about what that field actually looks like in practice. We also have our honors program, which is a more academically rigorous track for our core curriculum requirements. These classes are preset. They're all discussion based, and it's a cohort, which means all of your honors classes would be with the same group of 20 students for your first couple of years. That doesn't mean all of your classes would be with this group. You'd have at least 1 class per quarter that would be either with your major, or if you're exploring different majors, other students. But the honors program is just a way, if you want to build that academic community right away, and you want to challenge yourself more, and it also comes with additional scholarship opportunities. So I always encourage students to just apply to the honors program. You'll do that your senior year as you're moving through the application process. And then you can always turn it down if you decide it's not a good fit, but it does come with scholarships, so I'm always like, please just apply, and then you can decide later whether you want to stick with that or not. All right, so I talked a little bit about the classroom at Seattle University. We really consider the city of Seattle as an extension to our classroom. So we really encourage experiential learning. That's really an important part of the Jesuit tradition as well, is getting that hands-on experience and really bringing what you're learning from the classroom out into the field. So that looks different for every student depending on your major. What I will say is that the majority of students across the board are able to do at least one internship, if not more than one. Only some do more than one. You still want to graduate in 4 years. But there's a lot of support through our career engagement office in finding an internship, building a cover letter, building a resume, and finding an internship that is a good fit with your career path. Being in Seattle, the opportunities are endless. So we obviously have the many Fortune 500 companies in the Puget Sound area, but we also have government agencies that are local and statewide that are nearby. We have nonprofit orgs that students want to get involved in, community organizations. There's so many opportunities to explore your field, and depending on your interests, we also have a very robust alumni network that we really lean on to help find kind of good matches for students. While most of the internships our students do are in the Seattle area, we have an alumni network that expands beyond that. So if you wanted to go home for the summer and you're not from Seattle, but you wanted to do an internship, we've had students from Minnesota do that, students from Hawaii do that, students from California do that. So just know there's opportunities outside of the Seattle area as well for that professional development. And then we also really encourage research. So for students who are in the STEM field, 94% of undergrads are able to do research while they're at Seattle U, which is really amazing. And then we also really encourage clinical experiences as well. So we have, as I mentioned, our nursing program is really popular. We have 5 major medical facilities within walking distance of campus. So that's one place our nurses go, but also any students who are interested in pre-med, pre-dentistry, pre-vet, anything like that. They could get volunteer hours there, they could build their resumes through that experience, and just being in the Puget Sound, there's incredible research happening in the medical field, and our students are able to plug into that because of our location. Outside of the amazing professional development opportunities in Seattle, Seattle is also a really fun city to live in. We have a great music scene and a great music history. It's a very artsy city, so if you're interested in that, there's a lot of creativity that happens in Seattle. And then there's also incredible sporting events. There's beautiful parks in the city of Seattle. Our students definitely rely heavily on the public transit system and biking to get around the city. There's a lot of beautiful bike paths that are protected. And then we're also just in the Pacific Northwest, so if you want to go hiking, backpacking, snowboarding, or skiing, some of our students are going snowboarding every single weekend in the wintertime. They're just getting a van together through one of our student orgs, or they're taking public transit from Seattle because they have direct to Trailhead public transit in the Seattle area that will just take them right to the outdoors and able to stay active and experience that if they want that. We also have some students who are like, nope, I'm a city person, I want to stay in Capitol Hill, or I want to explore other neighborhoods. That's definitely also very welcome. Capitol Hill is a great thrifting neighborhood, so students really embrace that as well. All right, so just speaking about Seattle as a city, we also like to highlight, because Seattle is such a diverse city, we like to highlight not only the diversity that exists on our campus, but also the resources for students who come from historically marginalized backgrounds on our campus, to make sure that everyone is aware of the kind of support systems that are available. So the first one I like to highlight is the Mosaic Center, which you'll get to walk past on your tour today. This is home to a lot of different resources. That's where our outreach center is. So that's for any student who is the first generation in their family to go to college. Our most recent 2 incoming classes both were third first-gen students. And so we really want to make sure, especially given how many first-gen students we have, that they have support in that transition to college. And so that's our outreach center is a place where people can go and just ask questions, but they also host a mentorship program where junior or senior first-gen students get to mentor first-year first-gen students, just supporting them in that transition to college. So that's one great thing Mosaic does. We also have our different identity-based lounges. So our intercultural lounge is a space for any students of color to build community with each other, and then also staff and faculty who share those identities. And then our Pride Lounge is for any student who identifies as LGBTQ+, to build community with staff and faculty and other students who share those identities as well. And then last but not least, Mosaic puts on really big educational events for the whole campus throughout the year. And these are talking about highlighting issues that are faced by different historically marginalized communities, and then also celebrating the successes that have happened in the last several years as well. And you'll probably see signs. It's summertime, so there's not as many events happening on campus, but you will probably see signs from the last quarter of different events that happened. And Mosaic hosted so many different speakers and bringing folks in. So I definitely recommend checking those out. Our International Student Center is a space of support for any international students. We have about 9% of our most recent class was international, and that actually grows every single year. It's obviously like a big transition to come from a different education system to the US. And so that support system is there to help with that, like visa logistics, but also just that community and like establishing yourself in a different education system. And then our Indigenous Peoples Institute is actually right outside this building. It's in the kind of connected to Xavier Hall, which is the dorm that you'll get to see on the tour today. I'm not sure if you can actually get down there from the hall, but it's a really beautiful space. It's primarily a community space for any students who are Indigenous, but they also do put on educational events a couple of times throughout the year and have some really incredible staff members working there as well. But yeah, it's just like such a, if it's unlocked after the tour, if you want to peek in, it's just a really beautiful space. I recommend checking it out. So then the last thing I like to highlight, so all these pictures here are from our annual legacy events, which are hosted by our different identity-based clubs on campus. We have 37 different identity-based clubs, and those are based on either cultural background, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, really spaces for students to build community across those shared connections. And you don't have to be a part of any specific culture, race, anything to be a part of these clubs. They're also a space for folks to educate and learn about different cultural backgrounds. Really, really great. So yeah, our legacy events are hosted by our identity-based clubs every spring. It's also when our annual drag show happens, which is really fun. Our biggest cultural club on campus is our Hawaii Cultural Club. And so their event is really, really big. Family members come, alumni come back for that event. There's food and music and dancing. But every single one of these events are really great on campus, and you'll hear a little bit more about them on your tour today. But we always like to highlight kind of what's happening there on campus. And then outside of our cultural and identity-based clubs, we have 180 student clubs on campus across many different interest areas. Some of these are going to be more professionally development-based, so it could be like our debate team, our entrepreneurship club. We have engineers for a more sustainable world. We have a pre-health club, a pre-law club. So just depending on what your professional interests are, there's definitely good ways to connect there. We also have interest area clubs as well. Our esports club is the biggest one right now on campus. We do have a new esports lounge in our student center. It's on the 3rd floor, so you won't get to see it today. But one of our tour guides is the president of that club, and he will just talk forever about it. Not one of your tour guides today, unfortunately. But Nathan, if you ever want to know more, you can always reach out to us. We can share Nathan's contact information, and he can tell you more about that. We do also have a thrifting club. We have different creative clubs. And then there's also a big emphasis on environmental justice and social justice. And so there's a lot of clubs on campus that are really built around making change both on our campus specifically and in the broader world and Seattle community. One really cool thing that came out of our Sustainability Action Committee, which is one of our environmental justice clubs on campus, was they worked on this for 10 years. They were pushing for full divestment for our endowment from fossil fuels. And as of almost exactly a year ago, June 30th last year, we were the first university in Washington State and the first Jesuit university to fully divest our endowment from fossil fuel. And that took a decade of student activism. So they're really making change on our campus, and it's really amazing to be able to see that coming through. And we're really proud about that. So then we also have intramural and club sports in addition to our D1 athletics. So if you want to stay active, meet people through that, I definitely recommend that. The last thing I want to talk about, which you'll hear more about on the tour, just in terms of campus life, is housing. So we do require students that are coming from outside of the Seattle area to live on campus for their first 2 years. And this is because we really want to support in that transition to college. For students who are from the broader Seattle area, if you live within 20 miles of campus, you have the option to live at home. And we do that knowing that hopefully you still have like that support system from your family or from whoever you're living with that can support that transition to college. We do have a really great commuter lounge on campus. About 15% of our first year class last year were commuter students, and 85% lived on campus. So by far the majority still live on campus. And we have 3 different first year dorms. You'll get to see one of them on the tour today, but there's also a video playing on loop right out here that's a tour of all 3 of them, and it's a pretty quick video, so if you have time after the tour, definitely recommend checking that out. It's also on YouTube, so you can find it there too. But they're pretty traditional, the first year dorms, so the bathroom's down the hall. You get assigned 1 roommate, you do have a sink, mini fridge, and microwave in your room, which is excellent. And then after that first year, you still are required to live on campus, but you have more independent living options. So you could potentially do apartment style living or suite style living. And then about half of our juniors and seniors move off campus into the local neighborhood, usually no farther away than about a mile from campus. They're able to find affordable options. And then about half are able to live on campus. All right, so the last thing I'm going to touch on before moving into the application process and financial aid is studying abroad. So we really encourage students to study abroad. We have about 400 students going to 40 plus different countries every year. You can see on the right side of the screen for you all a list of some of the countries that our students are going to, but they're really going everywhere in the world. You could do an internship, you could take classes, you could do research. We have some students going for a week and some going for a full year. So just depending on your major, depending on your interests, there are opportunities for every student, and there are financial aid opportunities for every student as well. If you do a Seattle U specific program, your financial aid will travel with you. If you do an outside program, some of those can actually be cheaper than attending Seattle U for the quarter. You just work with our Education Abroad office to find one that's a good fit. And we really believe it's part of our Jesuit commitment to education, to put ourselves out of our comfort zones and learn from different cultural backgrounds. So if you're able to do that, whether you go to Seattle U or somewhere else, I definitely encourage studying abroad as a way to just expand your horizons a bit through your education. All right, that was a lot of information. Do we have any admitted students who have already applied and been admitted to Seattle U in the room? Okay, at least one. Okay, well you can space out during this part because you already got in. Congratulations. Don't worry about paying attention. But for the rest of you, I'm going to first talk about the first year application process, and then I'm going to talk about the transfer application process. So for first year students, actually for all students, we do a holistic review of your application. So that means we look at every single thing that you send us, including the fact that you visited campus today. So congratulations, you're already doing great on your application. And then we look at a lot of different factors. So in terms of your academics, for first year students, we're going to look at your high school transcript. On there, we're going to see if there's academic rigor. So if you've challenged yourself in with the opportunities you've taken in high school. We know that not every high school offers AP, IB, dual enrollment classes, but if your high school does, we do like to see that you've challenged yourself a bit through that process, through your high school experience. We also do look at your grade trend, so how steady were your grades over your 4 years of high school. We know that there are some bumps in the road often, so whether that was the transition from virtual learning back to in-person, whether it was mental health or a family emergency, if there was anything like that impacting your grade trend, please share that on your application. We can't know unless you tell us, but we are a small enough school that we're able to read every single application, and we will pay attention to that as we review that part of your application. So just know, and if you're ever not sure, like should I share this on your application or not, you can always reach out to your admissions counselor and we can give you some tips of what we would recommend. And then we also do look at your overall unweighted GPA. If you're applying right into a major, there are specific prerequisites for some of our majors. So that could be pre-calculus for some majors, we require physics for some majors, that is only to be directly admitted. So for our nursing program and diagnostic ultrasound, as I mentioned, if you're interested in those programs, then you do have to apply right into them and meet the prerequisites. So I'm happy to elaborate more on what those specific prereqs are after the tour if you all want to know. But then our other programs, if you're missing some of those major prerequisites, that's okay. You can still be admitted to Seattle U. You wouldn't be admitted directly to the program, but then you could just declare once you get here. We don't have capacity limitations on any programs outside of our nursing college, so there is going to be space. There will be possibility. I wouldn't be too nervous about that, but I'm always happy to talk more about those details. We're also test optional, so that means that if you submit test scores, we will include them in the review process. About 30% of students apply with test scores, and 70% of students apply test optional. So that means the majority are not submitting test scores. It's not going to hurt your application at all if you decide not to submit test scores. If you feel like it could help your application, so say like you got a lower grade in Algebra 2, but you really crushed it on the math part of the ACT, that would be an opportunity to share your scores. But for the most part, we feel like it's not an accurate representation of a lot of students' abilities, and so we respect that. So if you don't submit your scores, it's not going to hurt your application, and it won't impact your merit scholarships as well. So that's just good to know. Outside of academics, we do also look at leadership and activities. So how are you spending your day outside of the classroom? And that could be so many things. Leadership looks different for everyone. It could be family responsibilities, working, if you're in student government, athletics, clubs, if you volunteer, if you're part of some kind of church community or something like that. Anything like that would count as a leadership or activity item. And I can guarantee all of you have at least 2 things you can write down. So again, if you need help figuring out what those are, you can always reach out to your admissions counselor and we can kind of talk through what you're involved in and see what would make sense for your list. And then we ask for 2 essays. One is a personal statement that is just a general personal statement you can reuse for several different schools. I always encourage people to write about something that you can't shut up about, that you're really excited about, because that's going to come through in the application. And then we have one shorter essay about why Seattle U specifically. So what is drawing you to Seattle U? So I definitely recommend on the tour today to take out your phone, take some notes on your notes app if there are things that stand out, and then just add those into your essay when you apply. We really notice when a student did their research and added those specific unique things to Seattle U. We also notice if a student copy and pastes their insert general school why essay into our application, and it's the saddest when they forget to change the college name. So just know we're real people, we get really sad. We won't deny you just because of that, but we do get sad, so just pay attention to that. And then last but not least, we ask for 2 letters of recommendation, one from a teacher and one from a counselor. If you go to a really big high school, you don't know your counselor, that's totally fine. We can waive that requirement and take 2 letters of rec from teachers instead. But if you do have a relationship with your counselor, we do prefer that letter of recommendation. Oh, the last thing, sorry. Deadlines are very important. So for first year applicants, we use the Common Application, which is a really great tool that you really use several of the same materials for many schools. We have 2 deadlines. Our early action non-committal deadline is November 15th, and our regular decision deadline is January 15th. All right, so I just like to highlight a few things about our transfer application process in case we have any transfer students in the room. We do the same kind of holistic review process for your application, but a few unique things. The deadlines are different depending on what program you're applying into and what quarter, so just be aware of that. If you are a transfer student, you want to take a picture of these deadlines, go for it. And then we also use a different application. So we don't use the Common App for transfer students, we use the Seattle U transfer application, which can be found on our website. So you can always ask more questions if you're not sure where to find that, but if you Google it, it should pop up with some additional instructions as well. All right, so last and very important, we need to talk about tuition and financial aid before we send you out with Joseph and Vincent today. So we are a private institution, so that means our sticker price is definitely on the higher side before financial aid is applied. Our tuition is over $53,000 right now before financial aid, and then if you add in room and board, travel costs, books and fees for students who are living on campus, it's around $73,000 is the estimate before financial aid, and $64,000 is about the estimate for living at home without financial aid. 97% of our new students receive financial aid, so by far the majority are not paying that really high number. And there's a lot of ways to bring that cost down. So the first way is you're automatically considered for merit scholarships when you apply to Seattle U. And those range for first years from $18,000 all the way up to $33,000 per year. We also really encourage all families to file the FAFSA or the WASFA, because that determines how much need-based aid you qualify for, both from Seattle U and from the government. We have some really incredible need-based programs now for both in-state and out-of-state students. So really file the FAFSA. Even if you're not sure if you'll get anything, it's always helpful to have that information on file. And if anything changes, we can work with that if we need to process an appeal or anything like that. Financial fit is a really important part of the college decision. You can see up here that our average aid package is around $39,000, but that's really different for everyone depending on all those different factors that we talked about. And we always want to be having conversations with families, even at this stage of the process, because we want to make sure that if you commit to Seattle U, that it feels like a good financial fit for you and your family as you're making that investment. All right, that was so much information. Every time I do this, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so much to hear in 30 minutes. So if you have any questions at all, please come talk to me after the tour, and I'll hand it over to our lovely 2 tour guides. Oh, and last thing, while they're coming up here, we do have water bottles that were just in the fridge. Thank you to these 2 for moving them out onto that table right outside. It is a little hot outside today, so feel free to grab a water bottle on your way out if you'd like to stay hydrated. There will also be, if you have a reusable water bottle with you, like Vincent here, you can fill it up. There's many different stations along the tour that you can fill that up if you'd like to as well. All right, take it away.
She putting us on blast. Alright, hi y'all. We both checked you all in. I'll start by introducing myself real quick. My name is Joseph Mukanda. I go by he, him. I'm an international student from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I study business analytics, business marketing, and I'm a minor in French. So if you have any questions in those areas, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Hi everyone, my name is Vincent. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm an upcoming 4th year marketing and management major, and I'm originally from Honolulu, Hawaii.
Yeah. Okay, so I forgot to mention I'm a junior. Yeah, I'm a junior. So since you guys are a big group, we'll split you up. We'll go from, since you guys are together, you'll go with him and them, but from that family, and then this side will go with me, and then the remaining go with Vincent.
I'll take it, guys.